Florida Congressman Brian Mast is the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he joins us today. Thank you for your service. Chairman, talk to me about that. Is the vice president correct in going after legacy media and how this story is being reported?
Absolutely. From the hosts of programming to the individuals that they're bringing on that are perpetuating this scenario that somehow it was just some innocent person that was driving through to go pick up their kids from school, didn't do anything wrong, instead of the facts of the situation that people can see and know up to this point, which is there was a person trying to impede law enforcement activities with their vehicle that was approached by an ICE agent, not immediately identifying as a grave threat, but identified as a threat. The vehicle was identified as a threat. And then the ICE agent, because of the split-second decision-making that has to take place to protect their lives, identified that now there was a threat to his life. And that is the most important opinion, is the first-person opinion of that officer on the ground and how they assess that situation. Vehicular manslaughter is not some far-fetched thing, and my understanding of this particular ICE officer is that previously they had been dragged some 50 to 100 feet by a vehicle previously.
Yeah, that is correct. According to CNN's reporting, I was reading through that article this morning, that very officer that is linked to the shooting of Renee Good is the same officer that was hit recently by a driver using their vehicle as a weapon, and he was dragged in that moment. So you can imagine he's faced with that again in a split-second decision. I'm glad you brought that up. Sports and political commentator Stephen A. Smith, he even offered up a unique perspective on the tragedy. Watch this.
From a lawful perspective, as it pertains to a law enforcement official, don't expect him to be prosecuted. He was completely justified. From a humanitarian perspective, however, why did you have to do that? If you could move out the way, that means you could have shot the tires. That means you could have got her a few feet away after you shot the tires. And if you were unsuccessful in doing that, you could have got her down the road. You didn't have to do that.
Mr. Chairman, you could speak to that moment. I think he's valid in saying in terms of being prosecuted. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. There is a press briefing happening around 10 a.m. That's going to be with city and state leaders in Minnesota. So we'll get to that. But it goes to the broader point. Everyone has an opinion on this issue. And one of those is you could have shot the tires, and it goes on and on. Mr. Chairman, what do you want to share about this moment? Because Tom Homan, the border czar, says we need to let the investigation play out first and foremost.
My opinion comes from somebody that used to kick in doors at the highest level of military special operations. And the opinion is to say the idea that a lot of people that haven't kicked in doors, where they say, you know, hey, why don't you shoot to wound? Why didn't you shoot them in the kneecap? Why didn't you shoot them in the hand like in some movie and make the gun fall out of their hand? Why didn't you do these other things? Those are not real things. That is Hollywood. That is a movie. When you are in that split-second moment of evaluating the threat that is in front of you, either it is a grave threat to you or it is not a grave threat to you. And if it is a grave threat to you, then you are acting accordingly with that judicious level of enforcement against it. And that is to protect your life against somebody trying to take your life. That's why it is justified in that way. That's why I agree with him in the first part of his statement. He will be justified in conducting that shooting because there was a grave threat against him. The second part of it of why didn't you shoot the tire? Why didn't you do that other thing? That is not a real thing.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.